Hello, everyone. This is Deborah Baker and Isabella,
Hey everyone.
and this is the CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience podcast. So today, um, we're going to be talking about two different stories that's going on. There's the GitHub Action Compromise, and there were also a bunch of browser extensions that were hijacked. So we're going to get into both these stories. And I'm Deborah Baker, and I already introduced Isabella. She's amazing, my amazing co host. And today's episode is a cybersecurity emergency briefing. So if you're using GitHub Actions in your CI CD pipeline, or browser extensions in Chrome, then you definitely need to hear this episode.
All right. Deborah, we are live, just so you know. We're all
Okay,
good.
great. Great.
All right. Well, I'll let you take the reign. We'll go ahead and get started.
Okay. Well, I'm ready. Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and do your intro?
Okay, I'll go ahead. So I'm Isabella Otero, and I have been Deborah's co-host on this amazing podcast. We're excited to be here and be live. This is our second time going live. But yes, today we're going to be covering two major threats: GitHub Action Compromise that leaked CI/CD secrets from over 23,000 repositories, and a hijacked browser extension attack that affected more than 3.2 million users, which is crazy. Because I love my extensions on Google Chrome. I can't lie, especially the dark mode. But both of these attacks are supply chain compromises. So showing just how vulnerable the software and tools we rely on every day can be.
Yep. So the first major security breach we're discussing is the GitHub Action Compromise that has potentially leaked CI/CD secrets of over 23,000 repositories. So attackers infiltrated the widely used tj-actions/changed-files GitHub action, modifying its code to expose sensitive credentials like AWS keys, GitHub personal access tokens, and private RSA keys in workflow logs.
If those logs were publicly accessible, attackers could have easily harvested these secrets. The breach was made possible because cybercriminals compromised a GitHub personal access token used by at TJ Actions bot, a bot with privileged access to this repository. Yeah, so the key details of this attack was titled CVE 2025 366. This was part of the critical vulnerability in TJ actions slash changed files. Their attack method: hackers modified the actions code and updated version tags to reference the malicious commit. Leaked credentials, AWS keys, like Deborah stated, GitHub pats, NPM tokens, and private RSA keys. Let's see. What else did they do? Oh, that's right. How could I forget? The malicious payload, Python script hidden in GitHub GIST that extracted secrets. So sensitive data that they had. And then this discovery date was stamped as of March 14th, 2025. But the exploitation could have started earlier.
Yeah, it's like the attackers took it a step further. They modified existing version tags so that all versions of the TJ-actions change files pointed to the compromised code. This means even repositories using older versions of the action were affected. So, how to protect your CI CD pipeline? And I'm going to hand it over to you, Isabella.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go ahead and go through those steps. So, mitigation steps for, DevSecOps teams. So, if your team is using this GitHub action, Here's what you need to do right now. You need to update to the patched version 46.0.1 immediately. Review workflows executed between March 14th and 15th for unexpected outputs under the changed files section. Make sure to revoke and rotate compromised credentials, including AWS keys and GitHub paths. And make sure to stop using TJ actions / changed files until further security audits confirm safety. And make sure to implement hash pinning for dependencies and avoid using latest tags in the workflows.
And let's not forget, this isn't the first time this GitHub action has been exploited. In January 2024, a critical vulnerability, CVE 2023-49291, which was CVSS 9.8 in the TJ-actions/change files, allowed for arbitrary code execution. Open source software is powerful, but it's also a major attack surface. So now we're going to go on to our next story, which is the hijacked browser extensions, which affected potentially 3.2 million users.
Yeah. So that was a major threat. That threat today is a browser extension hijack that has affected 3.2 million users. Attackers compromised legitimate extensions, ones, people trusted and had installed for months or even years, and injected them with malicious scripts. So like I said, going back to my statement earlier, like even sometimes when you visit a website, it's like, do you want to add this extension? Some people may blindly, click on it and say, yeah, agree, allow, add it, install it. But it's definitely important to look and see what you have currently enabled. Because if you use Google Chrome like me, you probably have a few that are in there that you didn't even know about.
Yeah, yeah.
But going back to this attack, so how the attack worked. So GitHub security uncovered a breach that injected malware into widely used Chrome extensions. Just like I said, I was like, oh, Chrome. The
Yep.
attackers modified legitimate extensions via supply chain compromise and pushed updates with hidden malicious code. So the malware itself, it stole sensitive data, login credentials, browsing activity. It injected ads and altered search results, and it modified HTTP requests to intercept web traffic.
Yeah, so the first thing I did when I saw the story is I went and I checked my browser. I'm like,
Yeah.
do I have any of these? Because I do use extensions. I try to be careful, of course, but there's a lot of extensions in this case that have been compromised. So you definitely want to look into these, and I'm gonna go ahead and read them.
Mhm.
But you can also, Google 3.2 million browser extension, and you'll see it'll come up. So it's Blip Shot, it's a screenshot tool, emojis, emoji keyboard. It's an emoji input tool, which if you're on a Mac, you can actually it's built in. So command control space bar, just so you know. WAT toolkit, WhatsApp web toolkit, color changer for YouTube. It customizes your YouTube themes, video effects for YouTube, and audio enhancer, themes for Chrome and YouTube, picture in picture, mic, ad block for Chrome, page refresh, Wistia video downloader, super dark mode, which I know you mentioned that.
I know. I don't know which one I have. I gotta look.
Yeah, emoji keyboard, emojis for Chrome, ad blocker for Chrome, no ads. And I had used ad blocker in the past.
Mhm.
Um, and it says ad block for you, ad block for Chrome, nimble capture, and K proxy. So you definitely want to remove these from your browser. If you have any of these installed, remove them immediately. These extensions bypass Chrome security and actively collected user data while injecting ads and modifying web content.
Man, and just so we can tell everyone out there to remove these extensions because now I'm nervous and I need to look into mine because
Right.
as you were going through that list, I was like, wow, I actually have used a few of those.
Yes, yes, I
And
know.
honestly, they were like scary smart in order to think of that because so many people, like I said, use extensions. Like people may not even know that they have it enabled.
Right, right.
So, yeah, if you guys wanna know how to remove the extensions in Chrome, so you click on the little puzzle piece on the top right corner, locate the suspicious extensions under, it'll say, uh, is it labeled extensions? Or is it I forgot what it is
Yeah,
actually.
it's got the little puzzle piece, I see that. And then there's
Uh,
also, like,
yeah.
the 3 dots. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. Okay, so, yeah, so that's actually the 3 dots, or there is the puzzle piece on the top right corner, and
Yeah.
then you can go to your extensions right there. And then go ahead and just click remove and confirm. But yeah. So I would say so segment 5 into this how to protect yourself from future attacks, best practices out there for your browser and CI/CD security. Make sure you keep your software and extensions updated. Only install extensions from trusted sources, never third-party sites. Use a strong antivirus to block malicious scripts. I cannot press that enough. Like, even if you have a home computer, please just get a basic version of antivirus, on your devices.
Right. Yeah, even if
Um,
you have a Mac, even if you
yes,
I mean, it has built-in protections, but still.
right. Yes, even if you have a Mac, as someone who previously worked for Apple, please, get a antivirus on any of your computers and
Yeah.
even, mobile devices as well. Android devices are more prone.
Exactly,
Yep.
right.
So,
Yeah, I just got one for my, iPhone recently because it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
something you don't think of, and especially when you're on iOS, you think
Mhm.
there are built-in protections, but you still need an antivirus.
Of course, of course. Like I feel like when you take like Windows, basic like Windows protection, that's not enough for everything that's out there. You gotta, put money into it and protect all your personal data. So your phones, your tablets, iPads, all those things, all of that come into play because you guys, everyone browses on their devices.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah. So yes, can I press that enough?
yeah.
Going back to the list. So, review extension permissions. So,
Mhm.
does a weather app need access to your logins? It definitely should not. So, be on the lookout for that. And then use a password manager to generate and store strong passwords. That is also a good key to have. Or, setting up any kind of MFA or, like Google
Mhm.
Authenticator. So you're the person getting those alerts that say, hey, are you trying to log into your account? If so, what's, the number that we're looking for? Adding that extra step goes a long way. And then last but not least, invest in personal data removal services to prevent identity theft. So I didn't know that you could freeze your social security number at certain like points. Like if I were to look for a
Oh, now
job,
that okay, that's something I didn't realize.
I had no idea. I was like, what do you mean you can like hide it? And so I thought that was extremely cool, coming from I was almost a victim of getting my identity stolen from applying to a job. It was a remote position that I had found on LinkedIn for a hospital based out of I forgot where at the time. And so, we had got through like the interview process, and I thought it was a little weird. They were like, "Hey, it's going to be a recorded interview. Like, here's the questions. Like, you're just going to answering them, and like we're going to view them." I'm like, "Okay." So, I'm like, this is the next wave of the future. They're just like, hey, answer these questions, record yourself. To me, it seemed normal. So I went through this whole process. And then they're like, okay, they sent me over an offer letter. And, I signed it, sent it back, all these things. And then it was a little weird. I didn't hear any contact from them for 2 days. Mind you, I haven't put any information out there, no social, like none of my personal information yet. And I was like, "Hey, let me call the hospital and, talk to HR and see, like, you know, where that person I was talking to went from HR. So I contacted them, and right away the woman was like, "What was the position? Who was the main point of contact?" I told her, and she was like, "Oh no, like, darling, I'm so sorry." She was like, "This is a scam."
Oh my
And she
goodness.
told me, she was like, "They have been posting fake jobs online, having people apply, putting in their personal information, and stealing that data." So
Oh,
that that was like and that was an awakening for me, that I was like, "Wow, they will go through any lengths to try to
yeah,
obtain data, money, anything, hold things for ransom." So just
yeah,
definitely take those steps into consideration.
right. Yeah, I almost somebody I was because I get work from Upwork,
Mhm.
and there was somebody on there, and they had a job posted, and they wanted to chat with me. Well, the first thing was they wanted to chat with me off of the platform, which
Yeah.
that's a
Mhm.
sign. And then, and they were, like, in this big hurry. That's another thing because it's kinda like you sorta, like, chat, and then there's usually not, like, that big of a hurry. They were
Mhm.
like, right then, right then. And, just by based on what he started asking me stuff like banking, or I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "This is Upwork. You would get paid through Upwork. What are you talking about?" You
Yeah.
know? I mean, it was, but I was, I thought, "Well, yep, the scammers, they're everywhere." You just have to be so careful, what you share with someone, things like that. And especially for you to have this was just like out on the regular, whatever, job site. And, it looked legitimate. I mean, they even sent you an offer. I'm like,
Yeah,
what
like,
in the
it's
world?
it's crazy to see, like, what lengths these people will go through, that they obtain the official, like, offer letter with, like, even the, what do you call that? Like, when you get pictures, but, like, you can't, like, copy them? A watermark. Like, with the
Oh,
official
okay.
watermark and everything on the document, like, it was crazy. It was a PDF file. I was just like, it all looks legit, because it was legit. It was the actual, you know, document that the hospital was using. They probably just got access to it via an email or got into their system somehow. I don't know, but it's
Yeah.
very scary. It's very
Yeah.
scary.
That was great though that you went ahead and just called the hospital
Yeah.
directly.
Uh-huh.
And because that's always what they say. So,
Mhm.
like, yeah, because if somebody calls you, your bank and everything, they say, "Don't ever give any information, don't ever give this code, don't ever," but you
Yep.
can always go back, like, if you're not sure. And I pretty much would just, yeah, I would just go and, like, call the bank directly or whatever if they were asking me. It's like, "Why are you calling me asking me this?" Even if you're like, you might
Right.
be with this bank. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just
And,
so
it was like a desperate time too, looking for a job, and, like, they know that people are actively, like, out there and, will put
right.
themselves out there so easily. So you just gotta be very careful. That's the thing. I never did talk to a person. I never did talk to anybody on the phone or anything like that. And so that's why I took the initiative, and I was like, "No, I'm calling the hospital." So I was like,
Yeah.
"I wanna talk to somebody. This is weird."
Yeah, yeah, especially
Yeah.
if they came back and gave you the job offer because nowadays
Yeah.
it's like interview after I mean, it's kind of like kinda ridiculous how many interviews you have to go through when you're interviewing with a company now.
Right, right.
And,
Yeah, no, they go through
but
the
I mean, we know how awesome you are, so of course they're gonna I mean, like, of course they're gonna hire you as a
Well, I'm really glad I did not take that job.
yes, thank goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
Oh,
because the
man.
next thing is give me your information, all that information, you're
Right.
gonna want. Yeah.
Man, I would have
Yeah.
been I would have been a different named co-host, I would have had to change my name, my identity, everything.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Oh, man.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
scary scary times.
Yeah, one other thing I was gonna say about the password manager is
Mhm.
because with the move to pass keys, which is great, you still want to save it in the password manager, because if you just saved it, like, directly to your, phone, like, in the regular key store, then
Mhm.
someone could potentially get access to it. So you definitely wanna have that second. So I always wanna I've started using those now. I mean, at first with the pass keys, it
Mhm.
was, how do I set it up and all of this, and I'm using it more, like, every time when a particular site says, "Oh, you can set up your passkey," go ahead and do that now. But I make sure I put it into that password manager so there's that second factor to get to it. So,
Right, right. I know I need to get better about using a password manager. And, it's good to invest in it. Like, don't always just go with like the best free option. Sometimes you do have to pay maybe like a few
right,
dollars a month,
right,
but I mean, would you rather pay a few dollars a month and, keep yourself more protected, or it hurts you way harder in the long run?
right. I like Bitwarden.
Mhm.
They have an option where it doesn't even go into the cloud, and
Oh,
you could
that's
just
nice.
have it on your devices. So that's one thing, and you could also set it up for your company too that way and not actually have in the cloud. But
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, they give you the option and they have for individual, it can be free.
Mhm.
Um, and then I mean, 1Password, I hear a lot of good things about 1Password. So that's another one.
Yeah, one password I've heard. I haven't heard the one that you use, but I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a bunch of good ones out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, in closing, this episode should be a wake up call for everyone, whether you're a developer securing your CI CD pipeline or just everyday user browsing the web. Cybersecurity has to be a priority. The tools we trust can be hijacked. And so you want to be watching the news, try to stay up, listen to our podcast and be aware of what you're using, whether it is just a browser extension.
Yeah. And like don't be afraid to do some research. Make sure you're looking at URLs, making sure they're coming from a secure source. And like Deborah said, just keep yourself, as protected as can be. So make sure you guys take action today,
Yep.
like check your browser extensions
Yep.
and look into password managers, and remember that the best way to stay protected is to stay informed. So take action.
Yep. And you can connect with Isabella and myself on LinkedIn. And remember to stay safe, stay resilient, and we'll see you next time on the CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience. And I'm going to do the little outro. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to pick up a copy of my book, A CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience, available on Amazon. And remember to stay cyber resilient. Okay. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to pick up a copy of my book, A CISO Guide to Cyber Resilience, available on Amazon. And remember to stay cyber resilient.